I played Sonic Rumble for a whole weekend, so you don't have to. That's right, the new upcoming mobile game called Sonic Rumble just had a beta happen, and it's a minigame battle royale that features platforming challenges. It features many Sonic characters such as Sonic himself, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, Vector, Espio, Amy, etc. It even has the Force's custom characters that you can play as to fill in, I guess, more space for character slots. The game also has a story, and it's simple as it can be, of course, because it's a battle royale game. The story goes as follows. Eggman sends Sonic and Tails a board game, and along with pieces that allow them to play the game. Sonic literally says, "I have no idea what's going on, so it's time to play the game." And they literally just start playing, as Eggman says it's going to be game over for them. And then the game cuts into you actually starting the tutorial, and that is the entire story so far. And now, before anyone asks, I wasn't expecting anything more than this. It's literally a Sonic Fall Guys battle royale kind of game, so a story wasn't really needed, so I'm not really expecting much. But let me start off by saying I wasn't really expecting this game to work the way it does. Instead of just beating the goal before everyone else, you actually have to do that on top of getting the most rings. But if I'm being honest, being first in this game kind of allows you to get the most rings in the first place. So it's kind of odd that the whole game is based around rings being the main factor, and of course qualifying. Someone could potentially be in second or third place in terms of where they are in the race, but could have more rings than the person who is in the very front of the race. In terms of that, it's pretty much a unique concept, I would say, for a game like this, because it's not just about being in first place, it's about the rings you score. And if I'm being quite honest, I don't really think the game is that balanced due to that. Especially in the game modes where you have to fight each other and use the power-up homing attack to steal rings from one another. And honestly, it's kind of crazy good if I'm honest. I would like to see some balancing around this game, as well as just overall quality of life improvements. For example, the game is in 30 FPS for some reason, even though iPhones and Androids these days can run games like Resident Evil Village, which came out in 2021 with great graphics at like 60 FPS. So there's no excuse why this game is stuck at 30. It does make the game feel more sluggish. Not everyone cares about frame rate, but to me, I find frame rate important, especially for a game where I'm competing against other people. Even if it's a casual game, I still like things to feel good when I'm playing them, so it makes me want to continue playing them. But let's talk about what you can actually do in this game, because there are several different mini games, of course, just like this kind of game usually has. The main one is really just a race to the finish, or dash to the goal as they say, where you just collect the most rings and go through the obstacle courses and get to the goal. And you utilize jumps and homing attacks, and there's loops and sometimes rails and whatnot. And I think overall that one is probably the most fun because you're racing. But there's one slight problem I have with the game is the default movement speed is actually quite slow. And I understand there's a lot more platforming going on here, and it's on a touchscreen mobile game, but it is just a tad bit too slow for my liking. And it feels like the only time you really get to speed up is when you hit a rail or a loop or something of that kind. And it doesn't kill the game because this is very, very short. There's only 3 mini games total that you have to play. Another one that I played that was kind of strange was the owl from Lost World in the Lost World centered stage. You had to like pop flowers and hide in bushes away from the owl. It was kind of interesting, but the main goal is to get as many rings as possible from homing attacking the flowers. Then I played another mini game where you had to get the most rings by breaking like rocks in a Lost World lava type area. And yes, for some reason this game loves Lost World as its design choice. I don't know why, but there's also Frozen Factory, which I encountered, and it was a dash to the goal type of game mode where you literally just race to the end. And that's like the most hated Lost World. And just like some other games like this, they have team mini games. I played one where I had to push a giant ball with my team inside of the goal so we could move forward and progress against the other team doing the same thing on the other side of the wall. That one's actually quite fun, and I feel like a lot of people understood the assignment pretty well with that one. I just remember playing games like Fall Guys where team mini games were honestly absolutely the worst because I felt like some of them were too complicated, I guess, for some people to work as a team. This one's pretty simple. You move forward and push a ball. Now, it almost sounds like a bad thing, but because this is a mobile game and it's simpler, I think it made it more fun because I didn't have to rely on people too hard, because honestly one person could push the ball pretty hard. And another game mode I encountered was collect the most rings, which was basically almost like Dash to the Goal, except it was a racetrack that looped over and over, and there were several ways to collect rings around that racetrack, and it kind of made it more fun. And it was on Starlight Carnival, which was nice to see. Low key, it almost looks better than Starlight Carnival and Sonic Colors Ultimate. It almost reminds me of how Final Rush looks in Sonic X Shadow Generations. This game, I don't know what engine it's running on, but it does have some pretty nice looking levels, I can't lie. I don't know, there's all kinds of mini games in this game, which is nice. There was even one where you had to avoid the Death Egg robot. There's also even a final showdown type of mini game where you have to avoid things running around in a circle, just like the final showdown in Fall Guys where the spinning thing. There's all kinds of stuff here, and I think that's great. Yes, there's even 2D section, guys. There was one where you had to run away from a giant chopper, which is like the mecha fish, and it was pretty funny. I was like, dang, not even this game can escape 2D. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I didn't hardcore play this game. I actually casually just whipped out my phone whenever the beta was up, because it was only up for about 3 hours at a time, and I would just casually play, and I just hit the record button on my iPhone. I was playing the game the way I feel like it was designed to be played. You're bored and you need something to do on your phone, so you want to play a little bit of Sonic Rumble. And that's exactly how I played the game. I played it over that weekend, and honestly, I was pretty even busy that weekend. And I just had moments where, hey, this is a good time to hop in the beta since it's up. And I feel like playing the game like that is probably the only way I would play the game. The overall game feel of this doesn't actually feel as good as I'd say Fall Guys, which is kind of a bummer because it's Sonic based, and Sonic usually is known for movement and good feeling controls most of the time. But I wouldn't really say this is that. I do feel like a younger audience could be more of the target for this due to the look of it and just the way it plays, but it is pretty fun for everybody, I'd say, overall. And I do wish this game would come to PC or consoles, because it does make a lot of sense for it to. And I have tried a controller on this game one time. I used a backbone attachment controller, which basically wraps around the phone so I can hold the phone and controller at the same time. And it did indeed work, but support wasn't fully there, so some things I still had to use the touchscreen for. But overall, it did work. And also, I'm just not the biggest fan of using touchscreen controls. If I had the option to use my backbone attachment, I will always prefer that. Tactile buttons and actual analog sticks will always feel better than that. Shoot, even 3DS games using the stylus is better than just using my finger. But one thing that we do have to talk about with this game is the music is actually pretty good. They have a lot of remixes of songs that already exist, some from Sonic Forces that are made even better, and a lot of it's like funky type of music or just that kind of remix. And it does sound pretty good. I think I particularly enjoyed Seaside Hills remix that they had going on. It sounded pretty great, but obviously this is a Sonic game, so we can always expect great music. Now, I would love to know who's doing the music because it does honestly sound good. I think I would sum up my thoughts by just saying it was overall alright. It was alright. It was still fun at the end of the day, and it was still something I could see myself every once in a while just pulling out my phone to play Sonic Rumble, or maybe even streaming it for content or whatever. It's just not something that you would be excited about, I feel like. It's really hard to be excited for mobile games, and truth be told, I did actually get excited for Sonic Dream Team, and I do think that game lived up to that for the most part, due to that actually feeling like a full-on game. There's no microtransactions even in that game. There most definitely will be in Sonic Rumble because there are all kinds of skins in this game. I even saw Sonic Riders Eggman in the game, so they're gonna do the Sonic mobile game thing where they have literally every iteration of the character probably as a skin, which I think is cool. So yeah, I played Sonic Rumble, so you don't have to find out maybe if you would like it or not. Maybe you can find out right here. Does this sound like your kind of game? Sound like something worth downloading? Let me know in the comments below. But that's gonna be it for today's video. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, whatever happens, happens.